Hello and happy Labor Day to everybody. Today is September 2nd, 2019. In this video, we're going to talk about a news story that comes to us from Kenya. Yesterday, September 1st, we're told that 6 people died in a flash flood that occurred at Hell's Gate, which is a national park in Kenya near Lake Naivasha. And what's interesting about this place is that it was the inspiration for the film The Lion King. The animated version, of course, first released in 1994, and a new CGI version being released this year in 2019. Now, in my videos, I talk about the language of Gematria or Gematria, this being the practice of coding numbers into words. And when you pay attention to these very basic ciphers and compare them to dates on the calendar and date numerologies, we find some pretty wild alignments in all of these mainstream news stories, and certainly this one here out of Kenya is no exception whatsoever. First, let's start out with the number they gave us in the headline of this article. We're being told that 6 people died. Notice how 6, using the alphabetic order, sums to the number 52, S the 19th letter, I the 9th, X the 24th. We also have a value of 20 in the reverse reduction method. These are the same two numbers as the word flood. Flood summing to 52 ordinal and 20 reverse reduction. This flooding occurred on the date September 1st. The date 9 plus 1 plus 1 plus 9 has numerology of 20. This story coming out of the nation of Kenya, which sums to 20 in reduction. Notice how 25 in reverse, this is also the value of death. 25 and 20, all of this occurring on a date with 20 numerology. Now, what stands out about Hell's Gate, as I mentioned, is that this was the inspiration for the scenery from The Lion King. Also, Tomb Raider, we'll look at that at the end of the video. But what I noticed is that, they call this movie Disney's The Lion King. And this does sum to 219 in the alphabetic order, so it is interesting that this movie is being re-released essentially here in the year 2019. The phrase Lion King on its own has a reverse reduction value of 44. Now, this stands out because the lead character in the film is named Simba. The name Simba also summing to 44, this time in the alphabetic order. Now, if we measure from the release date of this new Lion King film to the date of the flash flooding in Kenya, we get 44 days. In reduction, flash flood sums to 44. The word kill, using the alphabetic order, summing to 44. And of course, this is a number we always see around these numbers having to do with death or these stories that have to do with death and tragedy. Now, when we look at the Hebrew Gematria of kill, this practice of Gematria, rooted in Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsephy, calculators for these languages also available on the Gematrinator. Well, anyway, if you look at the reduction and Hebrew Gematria values of the word kill, you find a really interesting alignment. Notice how in full Hebrew Gematria, kill sums to 244. So not only was this 44 days after the release of The Lion King, but it also happened to fall on the 244th day of the year, September 1st. And think about how the date September 1st is written. Internationally, as it would be written in Kenya, this would be written 1/9. Kill in Hebrew reduction sums to 19. When we look at Jewish Gematria, which is the main large number cipher I teach, seen on the right side of your screen, this uses the ancient Latin alphabetic order with more modern English characters at the end. When you write out 19 in this method, it sums to 244. And how interesting is it, like we just said? The word kill, summing to 1/9, like September 1st, the 244th day of the year. So a lot of correlations with the calendar here. And when you look at the article, you find that this story comes to us from Kenya's Wildlife Service, who is apparently the teams that go about the park. And notice Wildlife Service, in the reverse alphabetic order, also has this value of 244 and 91, just like the date 9/1. So when we write out this number 19, which is significant to this story, we get this ordinal value of 86. And this is an interesting number for this to sum to, because 86 is 19 plus the 19th prime number, which is 67. So if you add 19 to its prime relation, you get a sum of 86, and 19 equals 86. This is a very significant number. We'll touch on this more in a second. What's interesting about this as well is that 67, the 19th prime number, this was coded into the story. The tour group was 7 people, 6 of whom died. So think about that. 6 of the 7 people dying in this story, that's a tribute to the number 19 here. So we have the 86 in ordinal. Look at the value of Hell's Gate National Park, the site of this tragedy. Here we also get a sum of 86, this time in reduction. September 1st, the date of the tragedy, sums to 86. Also notice September 1st summing to 67, just like the prime relationship. Our calendar, our numbers, how we spell these dates, and all of this all seems to be coded accordingly. And think about the date September 1st, written 9/1 here in the United States. Lion King equals 91 in the alphabetic order. Its main character, Simba, summing to 91 in reverse. So clearly by now, we can see that this number has a lot to do with the number 19. And whenever we're talking about the number 19, we need to be mindful of the Metonic cycle. This language of letters and numbers, there's strong astrological elements to this study, and the Metonic cycle is perhaps the most important cycle of time you need to understand when looking at these news stories. So the Metonic cycle is a period of almost exactly 19 years. It's a common multiple of the lunar phase. So every 19 years syncs up with almost exactly 235 lunar phases. In the other large number cipher I teach on this channel, English Extended, which uses the current 26-letter alphabet, producing much larger numbers than ordinal, I want you to notice the gematria of Lion King here. Notice how this sums to 235. The Metonic cycle, again, a period of 235 synodic months. And that's interesting. 19 years, 235 lunar phases. Lion King equals 91, the reverse of 19, and 235. And something I've always pointed out that I found was very interesting about the Metonic cycle, because this period is 19 years long, 7 of them must have a 13th lunar phase in order to complete the 235 lunar phase cycle. And when you write out 19 years, you also get this 197 value. And think about the release date of Lion King this year, the 19th of July, the date written 19/7. So how interesting is this, that in Jewish gematria, Metonic cycle sums to 668. This news story of tragedy comes to us from Hell's Gate National Park, which also sums to 668 in the exact same cipher. A couple other small things I want to look at. Wikipedia points out that this Hell's Gate Park was the inspiration for 2 films, The Lion King and Lara Croft Tomb Raider. And notice how Lion King, these 91, 125, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, also 91 and 125. There's also a prime relationship here between this gematria, as the 46th prime is 199. As far as the reverse gematria, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, 314, the first three digits of pi. This is interesting because if you measure from the original release date of the first Lion King film back in 1994 to the release date of The Lion King this year, notice how you get 301 months and 4 days. And this is a pi tribute. Pi is 3.14. In Sumerian gematria, Disney's The Lion King sums to 1314. This number was coded into the headline that CNN gave us using capital letters. That headline summed to 1314. All right, guys. So that'll do it for this decode. Thanks to everyone who popped in, the few of you who are around this Labor Day. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of your weekend and is recharged for the coming work week. All right, guys, we will talk to you soon. Everyone, God bless. Have a good day. Peace out. Adios.